I saw our dog walking two legs last night. He went into my sister's room. Now she's gone. Part 1. I can't stop shaking. It's hard to hold the pen steady. Mom and Dad don't believe me. They think I imagined it. But I know what I saw. I wish I didn't. Mom came into my room this morning, just after sunrise. She didn't notice how stiff I was, how my face must have been pale as a ghost. Her mind was on her usual routine, opening the windows on either side of the bed before heading to wake Amelia. How I wished that she'd find her there, that I'd hear her say, "Upsy daisy, Amelia," and that it'd all be just some horrible dream. But she didn't find her. I heard her call Amelia's name, softly at first, then louder. Her footsteps quickened, moving from room to room, her voice growing sharper, more frantic. She checked the kitchen, the sitting room, even the back garden. I stayed frozen in my bed, clutching the sheets as her panic spread through the house. When she came back to my door, she looked at me properly this time. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "Clara," she asked, her voice trembling, "do you know where Amelia is?" I couldn't answer. She thought I was scared of her shouting. She had no idea what I'd seen. The rest of the day was chaos. Police swarmed the house, stomping through the rooms, asking endless questions. They searched the woods, the quarry, even the old church on the hill. Nothing, not a trace. Dad yelled for them to do more. Mom just cried. I stayed quiet. Too quiet. I knew if I spoke, it'd all spill out. And no one would believe me anyway. 6 girls have gone missing from Millbrook in recent months. Teenagers, all of them. People whisper about it, like saying it aloud could summon something worse. Everyone's scared, but no one knows what to do. I always thought it was some stranger passing through. Now I'm not so sure. Now I think it's been here all along. Last night I saw something I can't explain. It was well past midnight when a creak from the hallway woke me. I always keep my door slightly open to let some light through the hallway, through the gap. I always keep my door slightly open to let some light in from the hallway. Through the narrow gap I saw Rufus, our golden retriever, walking towards Amelia's room, but not on all fours. He was upright, like a man. His shape looked wrong, bigger somehow, and his movements were uneven and unnatural, like something trying to mimic life, but failing. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming, but I could tell it was him. The shaggy fur, those familiar amber eyes. It was definitely Rufus. I heard Amelia's window open, then close. My body froze. My mind screamed at me to call for help, but I couldn't move. About an hour later, the window opened and shut softly again. Rufus came back out, still on two legs. He stopped at my door and peeked inside. My heart thundered, each beat louder than the last, threatening to give me away. I squeezed my eyes shut and pretended to sleep, every muscle trembling, but locked in terror. When I finally dared to open my eyes, he was gone. Even now, I can't make sense of what I saw. Rufus has been with us for years, remembering how he'd curl up at my feet during storms, or nudge my hand with his nose when I was sad. He was family, gentle, loyal, always there. But what I saw last night wasn't Rufus. Not really. It looked like him, but there was something deeply wrong. Something almost hateful in the way he moved. It made my stomach turn. I told Dad tonight I couldn't keep it in any longer. The police were gone and Mom was crying in her room. The house was quiet when I went into him. I stumbled through my words, and Dad listened. His brow furrowed like I was a little kid spinning stories again. When I finished, he sighed and said, "Clara, you've had a rough day. You're exhausted. It must have been a dream." He patted my head awkwardly, trying to reassure me, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Millbrook is a town of atheists. We don't believe in things out of fear. Afterward, he tucked me in. He hasn't done that since I was little, but I think he needed it as much as I did. "Try to sleep, sweetheart," he said softly, brushing my hair back. "We'll find Amelia, I promise." His voice cracked on her name. As he left, I glanced at the hallway. Rufus was there, standing on all fours at the edge of the light, his amber eyes locked on mine, unblinking. For a moment, I thought about telling Dad, but the words caught in my throat. The dog didn't move, didn't make a sound. He just stared. My skin crawled. I pulled the blanket to my chin. His dad patted Rufus on the head, and he followed him down the hall. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe it'll help me make sense of it all. Maybe someone will find this. If something happens. I just can't stop thinking about the girls who went missing. Did they have dogs too? Did they see what I saw? Amelia, I'm so sorry. I should have done something. I should have called for help. Screamed. Anything. pretending it wasn't real. I let you down. I hope you are okay. Amelia, I hope he didn't do anything to you. I feel the truth is coming for me tonight. I'm afraid it's not the one I'm hoping for. I saw our dog walking on two legs last night. He went into my sister's room, and now she's gone. Part 2. After what I've seen tonight, I don't think my life would ever be the same. We're running away from our own home as I write this. Dad has been driving at full speed for the past hour. His forehead hasn't stopped sweating ever since we left. Mom's sitting next to me in the back seat, trying to stay calm, but I can see the fear in her eyes. And I don't know how I'm still breathing. I have to remember what happened. I can't let it go. I have to make sense of it somehow. An hour ago, I was in my bed, terrified, wondering if Rufus was coming to get me. I tried to lock my door, but it's been broken for ages, so I just shoved it as far as it would go, praying no shadows would slip through the narrow gap at the bottom. At some point, I asked myself, if he comes for me, can I do anything? Is there a way I can save myself? My room's on the ground floor. I could jump out the window and hide somewhere, but he's a dog. He'd sniff me out. When he does, there would be no one to save me outside the house. My only chance was to go get Dad. Somehow. I sat, wide awake in my bed, for what felt like an eternity. Everything was silent. When the clock struck 2, I thought maybe it really was just a bad dream. My eyes finally started to feel heavy again. The exhaustion pulled at me, but just as I began to drift off, I heard it. The faint sound of a single footstep in the hallway. My eyes snapped back open at once. A wave of terror shot through my veins. I had never felt such despair in my life. But I couldn't freeze up this time. I couldn't let myself be that scared girl who did nothing. I had an idea. It was a silly idea, but I didn't have any other choice. I stood up, opened the window, and placed one of my slippers by the windowsill. Then I grabbed an old stinky blanket from my cupboard and wrapped myself in it, hoping the scent would mask my presence. It was my only chance. I crawled under my bed and waited. A few minutes later, the door creaked open. I felt the fear searing through me. 2 legs, twisted, unnatural, skin, muscle, and bone grotesquely tangled. The bones jutted out at odd angles, sharp and brittle looking. The skin stretched over them was torn in places, Its claws looked bloodthirsty, but what really made my skin crawl was seeing the fur. Rufus's beautiful golden fur, now matted and knotted, clinging to the twisted limbs like it had been sewn into some creature. It really was him. I couldn't hold back my tears. He went to the window, grabbed my slipper, and looked out over the yard. I could hardly breathe. I was barely moving, barely thinking. Slowly, I crawled out from under the bed on the other side and began to move towards the door, crouching low, trying to stay hidden. But then, I looked at him. He was directly staring back at me. My heart slammed into my throat. I bolted. I ripped the blanket off and made for the door. His growl echoed through my chest. I stumbled, nearly tripping on my own feet, but I couldn't stop. "Dad," I screamed, voice raw. "Dad." The creature lunged. His hand hit the jug by my bed and went flying across the room, spilling water everywhere. I hit the hallway, but it felt like it stretched for miles. I ran, my legs burning. My feet barely touched the ground. I could hear him behind me. His footsteps, faint, but there. "Dad," I screamed, my voice hoarse with fear. I tripped just before his bedroom door, crashing to the ground, and then Dad opened it. He saw me, terrified, barely able to breathe. "Dad," I gasped, throwing myself into his arms. He held me, but his eyes were already on the dog. He was back to his normal self, acting confused and innocent. A wave of despair hit me. He won't believe me. He'll think I'm crazy. But then Dad's eyes fell to the floor behind Rufus. Water footprints. They weren't from a dog. He froze, his face draining of color. His eyes locked with Rufus's. For a moment, everything was still. Then he grabbed me softly, lifting me up, trying to steady my shaking body. "Clara, honey," he whispered, "did you have a bad dream?" His words didn't match the panic in his eyes. He was pretending. I could see it. "Go on. You can sleep with your mom tonight," he said and nudged me toward their bedroom. I started walking in, and Dad followed behind. I held his hand tightly, never looking back at Rufus. The dog didn't move, just sat there, watching. But as soon as Dad put one foot in the bedroom, we felt it, standing up. We heard his body contorting, muscles twitching, skin splitting. The bones cracked. I had never heard something so grotesque in my life. Dad's face went pale. His breath caught in his chest. He averted his eyes from the creature, as if looking at it would do something bad to his mind. He pushed me in with all his strength and locked the door behind us. I could hear the creature just outside, breathing. Its shadow loomed beneath the door. It was standing right there. Dad stood frozen, holding the doorknob in place. "What the hell are you?" he shouted, voice breaking. Dad had seen it now. It was real. Everything was real. Meanwhile, Mom was still asleep in their bed. She'd probably taken sleeping pills. The creature didn't respond. Instead, it chuckled. Soft, cold. Then it spoke. Its voice guttural. Wrong. Latin, maybe. It didn't matter. It was demonic. Dad spoke of it. Dad spoke again, his voice quivering. "What are you saying? Get out of my house." We heard nothing for a minute. Then the creature answered, "Martin, you should have believed." Everything went silent. I remember Dad breathing so heavy. He turned to me, his face full of terror. He whispered, "Clara, get to the window now." "What?" I whispered in panic, but he looked at me with frantic eyes. "Go now," he hissed, urgently. I didn't ask again. I opened the window and jumped. I hit the cold ground hard and ran to the closest bush to hide. I left Mom and Dad alone in there. But what else could I do? At least this way, Dad didn't have to worry about me. A minute or two later, I heard Dad shout, "Clara, get in the truck." I sprang up and ran as fast as I could to the driveway, praying I wouldn't run into the creature. My heart pounding, I reached the truck, jumped in, started it. As soon as the headlights flashed on, I saw it, standing on the roof, just out of light's reach. I couldn't see its face, but I knew it was grinning at me. When I saw it, I remembered a horrible thought crossing my mind. Did it get past Dad? When I saw it, I remember a horrible thought crossing my mind. Did it get past Dad? But before the thought could consume me, I saw Dad running towards me. He was carrying Mom in his arms. She was barely awake. He put her in the back seat and took the wheel from me. I've never seen Dad like that before. He floored the pedal, the truck almost tipping over. As soon as it faced the road, the tires screamed and we were gone. I didn't dare look back. "Martin, what's happening? Where's Amelia?" Mom asked from the back seat, still groggy. "Sarah, Clara, move to the back seat and talk to your mom," Dad replied, his eyes glued to the road. I moved to the back seat and tried to explain it to Mom, while Dad drove at full speed towards town. She didn't believe me. She even got angry. But then Dad snapped. "Sarah, it's true. I saw it myself. I heard it myself," he said, wiping sweat off of his forehead. "I need you to be calm, okay? I'm sorry I shouted at you." I saw Mom's face change from angry to scared. She looked at me, and I muttered, "It's true. My eyes welled up as she took me in her arms, and I held her back. I needed it so much from her. But Martin, where are we going? Mom asked calmly. Dad gripping the wheel, his knuckles white. He didn't answer right away. A minute later, he halted the truck, took his face to his palms. He does that sometimes when he really needs to think. Dad, what's wrong? Please, can we not stop? I asked instantly. It felt so vulnerable not to be moving. I was taking us to the neighbors, but we can't go there. Why not? Mom asked. They won't believe us. Like I didn't believe you, Clara. They'll say it must have been a wild animal. If we mention to them that it spoke, they'll think we're insane. They'll let us stay the night, sure, but they'll do nothing else. They can't do anything else. Where else then? Mom asked again. To Elias, he replied. I hadn't heard that name in a long time. Elias is one of the old inhabitants of Millbrook. He used to be the priest of the old church on the hill when I was little. Dad once told me that it was Elias's family who built that church over a century ago. People used to believe back then, but a lot has changed since. Millbrook has produced philosophers, psychiatrists, doctors, physicists, people who travel the world and come back after with different views. Over the last couple decades, faith slowly left Millbrook. Father Elias tried to retrieve it, but he failed. There was a year when no one stepped foot in his family's church. Not a single person in the entire year. That's when Father Elias left the church and Millbrook. Now he lives about 40 miles outside of town in solitude. Father Elias, Martin, are you sure? Mom said to him. Here, people will call us crazy, Sarah. You know that. Elias will listen to us. He might even be able to do something, he said, stepping on the pedal once again. The truck lurched forward. Dad's eyes went back to the road, and I couldn't stop thinking about those words the creature said. You should have believed. Every night at 3 a.m., I hear my dead brother asking me to open the door. I haven't told anyone this. Not my family. Not my friends. I'm not even sure why I'm writing it down here. I guess I just need someone to believe me. Or at least to read this before it happens again tonight. It's been exactly 1 year since my younger brother Elias died. He was 3 years younger than me, but always seemed older, calmer, kinder, more grounded. While I was the loud one, the one who pushed boundaries. Elias was the type to read in silence, smile without needing a reason. reason. The cancer hit fast. Acute leukemia. The doctors didn't sugarcoat it. They gave us a few months, maybe, but in the end, it was barely 8 weeks. I spent most of that time with him. Helped him eat. He couldn't lift his arms. Held his hand when he was too weak to even speak. Tried to joke around just to make him laugh. In the final hours, when he was barely there, he looked right at me. Not scared, not sad, just knowing. "Don't stay alone," he whispered. That was the last thing he ever said. After that, everything shut down. There was a flat line on the monitor. A few soft words from the nurse. And then nothing. The world just stopped. I don't even cry much. Not at first, anyway. I think part of me refused to believe he was really gone. I disconnected from everything. School, friends, routines. Slept all day, stayed awake all night. Barely ate. I thought maybe the silence would help me process it. Instead, it left space for something else. The first time I heard his voice again, it was around 3 a.m. I hadn't been asleep, just lying there, staring at the ceiling. The window cracked open to let in the late October air. "Are you there?" It was faint, soft, coming from the hallway. I froze, not because I was afraid, but because I knew that voice. I got up, opened the door, turned on the lights. Nothing. Every door was locked. Windows closed, no sound, except my own heartbeat. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same voice. "Are you there?" I told myself it was a trick of memory, auditory hallucinations, lack of sleep. That made sense, right? But the voice kept coming back. Every night, 3 a.m. sharp. And the footsteps started. Soft, deliberate steps across the hallway floor, stopping just outside my bedroom. Never louder than a whisper, but impossible to ignore. Eventually, I started locking my door at night. I played white noise, music, anything. Sometimes I'd fall asleep with a podcast playing, just to drown it out. But none of it worked. Sound always cut through. Always him. Then came the knocking. 3 soft taps. Then his voice. Closer now. "Please, open the door." I never sounded threatening. Not angry or vengeful. Just pleading. Almost sad. I told myself I wouldn't give in. I wasn't going to open the door. I wasn't going to play into whatever this was. stop. Then it got worse. I started finding things around the apartment. Objects I hadn't seen in years. Stuff I knew was in a box in the attic, sealed and forgotten. A small, worn-out toy dinosaur on the windowsill. His favorite. The one he carried everywhere as a kid. A half-drunk Capri Sun on the kitchen table. Wild cherry. The exact flavor he used to beg Mom to buy every day. Each day something new. Each night, his voice. Like the past was leaking into the present. Something was trying to lure me back. Last night I found his old diary on my desk. It had gone with him to the hospital. I'd packed it in his bag. He never wrote in it much, but it was something that brought him comfort. It never came back home with us. I'm absolutely certain of that. And yet, there it was. Dusty. Locked. Familiar. I opened it. Only one sentence had been added. Written in a shaky but unmistakable hand on the last page. I found a place for you. That's when I knew it wasn't just memory. This wasn't just grief. Something was actively reaching out. I tried everything. Left town, booked hotel rooms, stayed with friends. I even rented a cabin hours away in the middle of nowhere and turned off my phone. No matter where I go, at 3 a.m., I hear him. Even when I'm awake, even when I know he can't possibly be there. Every night, his voice changes a little. Just a little. Subtle at first. Slightly slower rhythm. Flatter tone. Like a recording wearing down. Like a mask slowly slipping. If it's really Elias, why does he sound less and less like himself with every visit? Tonight is the anniversary of his death. 1 full year. And I'm hearing him already. I'm waiting for 3 a.m. this time. He's early. I hear footsteps in the hallway. Slower than usual. More deliberate. Closer than the whisper. Please. Open the door. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. Every part of me screams not to. But something inside of me is whispering that tonight is different. That if I open it now, it might finally end. That maybe I'll see him just one more time. That maybe it won't stop unless I do. I'm standing up now. I'm walking to the door. My hand is on the lock. I'm going to open it. My neighbor's kids won't stop knocking on my door. dead for 5 years. It started again last night. 3 soft knocks at the door. Just after 2 a.m. The exact same as it's been the past 4 nights. Knock, knock, knock. I know I shouldn't open it. I know what I saw. But when you hear children's voices whispering your name in the dark, and you see their silhouettes pressed against the frosted glass, it's hard to pretend you're not just a little bit hopeful. It's hard to pretend that it's not all been some horrible mistake. The Wilson kids died 5 years ago. Their house caught fire in the middle of the night. Faulty wiring, they said. By the time anyone noticed the smoke, it was already too late. The family was trapped. The whole street woke up to their screams. I did too, but I didn't do anything. I stood in my window and watched the flames eat their house alive. I told myself it was too late. By the time I got outside, I couldn't have helped anyway. But I heard them knocking. Even then, faint and desperate, just like now. I think it came from inside the walls. Parents' bodies were found together, melted into the charred bed frame. But the kids, they were never found. Just tiny handprints on the floorboards, leading to the front door. The door had claw marks in it, deep ones. The cops thought wild animals had gotten in. But wild animals don't knock. Last night I finally opened the door. There was no one there. But the knocking didn't stop. It was coming from the walls now. It's not just knocking anymore. They're talking. I can hear them behind the drywall, giggling and whispering, scraping their fingernails along the inside. They're moving, room to room, closer. They keep asking why I didn't help them, why I watched, why I did nothing. I tried to tell them I was scared, that I didn't know what to do. They didn't like that answer. I don't think they're going to leave this time. My lights are flickering. The air smells like smoke. And I can see their tiny handprints forming on the wall beside me. They're inside the house now. And they're not alone. I didn't sleep. After the handprints appeared on the wall, I locked myself in the bathroom, turned the lights off. I don't know why. Like, hiding would help. I sat in the bathtub with a knife I found in the drawer. Like that would make a difference. They didn't try to break in. They didn't have to. Around 3:15 a.m., the whispering started again. Not just the kids this time. Another voice joined them. Deeper, slower, like it was learning how to speak. The children sounded afraid of it. I heard one of them say, "He's awake again." Then silence. Then the scratching started. Not at the walls this time, but from inside the mirror. I swear I'm not crazy. I watched a small crack form from the center of the glass, spiderwebbing outward like pressure building behind it. Something moved on the other side, just beneath the surface. I turned away. When I looked back, the mirror was normal again, but my reflection wasn't. I blinked when I didn't. I left the bathroom when the sun came up. I thought maybe daylight would push them back. Like they were tied to the night somehow. But now things are different. It's not just the walls. It's the photos too. Every picture in my house with people in it. Friends, family, even old school photos. All their eyes are gone, scratched out. But there's something worse. The Wilson kids are in them now, standing in the background, watching. One of them is behind me in the picture on my fridge, smiling. I'm in the photo too. I don't remember taking it. I don't remember ever smiling like that. I left the house around noon, drove until my gas light came on. Parked in some diner lot, an hour out of town. I've been sitting here for hours. I don't know where to go, but they do. There's a note under my windshield wiper, written in crayon. Why did you leave the door open? I didn't. I swear. I closed it. Unless... No, I locked it. I know I did. I'm going home now. I have to. I think whatever was with them got out. I think it's wearing me. Pretending to be me. And if that's true, then who's been driving my car the last 10 minutes? We put trail cams all over the mountain. Something keeps moving them closer to the cabin. I took a seasonal job as a ranger in the Cascades. Mostly isolation stuff. Watching fire lines, logging trail damage, monitoring wildlife. Few radio check-ins a day, and the rest of the time was mine. Perfect gig for someone trying to get away. The cabin I was assigned sits about 12 miles from the nearest road. Old place, nothing fancy. Radio tower, generator, propane stove, no internet, no cell service. Just me, the trees, and a whole lot of quiet. I liked it. Until the third week. That's when the noises started. Not animals. Not weather. footsteps. They were subtle at first, slow, heavy, always at night. I'd hear them circling the cabin, 4 or 5 paces at a time, then nothing for hours. I set up trail cams, 8 of them, motion triggered, infrared. I nailed them to the trees in a perimeter pattern. The next morning I found all 8 on the ground, not broken, not chewed, just unscrewed from the trees and placed neatly in a pile beside the front steps, like a message, like a warning. I put them back up. Days later, they were closer. 3 of them had been moved, not far, just 10 feet in, angled toward the windows now. I didn't sleep that night. I brought the cams inside that morning, locked the door behind me, double-checked the windows. Each camera had about 5 hours of footage, mostly empty woods, the occasional raccoon, branches swaying in the wind. But then I got to the 5th one. Timestamp 2:13 a.m. Movement. The camera jolts slightly, like something adjusting it. Then it re-angles itself, pointing not at the trail, but at the cabin window. Mine. The one facing my bed. It sat still for about a full 2 minutes. Then something stepped into frame. Not all at once. Just a shoulder. Then a leg. Long. Thin. But covered in something dark, matted like wet bark or hair. It moved slow. Too slow. Like it didn't care if it was seen. Then it turned. Just its head. And I swear to God it looked at the camera. Right at it. Then frame by frame it smiled. Not human. Not animal. Just jagged split of dark between fur. And behind it, another face, smaller, pressed against the glass of the cabin window, looking in. I packed within 10 minutes. Clothes, knife, battery, radio. I didn't even turn the generator off, just left. I took the west trail, steeper but faster. Runs past 3 old fire lookouts and hits the service road at 12 miles. From there, it's a 5-mile descent to where I parked the truck. I made it 3 miles before I realized I wasn't alone. It wasn't footsteps. It was the silence. Birds, insects, even wind. Gone. Like the forest had sucked in a breath and was holding it. That's when I saw the first cairn. Stacked stones, 6 of them, balanced carefully in the middle of the trail. Nothing odd on its own, except there was a scrap of red flannel tucked beneath the top stone. I didn't own anything red. A mile later I saw another. This one had a tooth resting on top. Human. I kept moving. Didn't stop to breathe. Just head down. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. cabin. My cabin. Same stack of cameras in this pile by the steps. Same dent in the railing from where I slipped home in wood last week. I'd walked for 5 hours in one direction, and somehow I'd come back. There were fresh footprints on the porch, but only one set. Mine. I didn't go in. Just sat on the porch, staring at the footprints. Same tread pattern. Same width. Same weight distribution. Mine. But I don't remember walking in circles. I don't remember coming back. I checked my phone. The timestamp said 3:08 p.m. Then 3:08 p.m. again. Then 3:07. I checked the radio. Dead. No static. Just that same low hum. Like a throat clearing at the other end of the line. I stayed outside till dusk. Didn't eat. Didn't move. When the first shadow passed between the trees, almost didn't see it. Didn't move like anything should. Didn't step or glide. Just shifted. Like something flickering between places. I backed towards the door. The handle was warm. Inside was where I left it. Bags still packed. Flashlight on the floor, window cracked open. Just a bit. And something new. A photo. Resting in the center of the bed. It was old, weathered, black and white. 5 men in ranger uniforms. Cabin in the background. All of them smiling. All of them with my face. And behind them, the shape of a tree line. Barely visible. Except for the eyes. Reflective. Watching. I turned the photo over. Someone had written something in pencil. Faded. Almost gone. Don't forget which one you are. I tried to laugh. But I couldn't remember what my voice sounded like. Has anyone else seen this kid? I always walk to and from school. My family never had much money, so it was a way to save money. Besides, we lived relatively close by, so it was manageable. When I walked back through this kid, around 7 years old, I'm gonna say, would always walk with me. I didn't really know him too well. We didn't talk much, but at the same time, it felt like we had some kind of connection. One day, he didn't leave school with me, though I thought the kid was just sick at the time. The next day, again, nothing. And then again, and again. It was like he disappeared off the face of the earth. 3 weeks later, though, he was back. This time, he was different. He didn't talk when I spoke to him. His eyes almost glazed over, like a doll. But most importantly, his route back home had changed entirely. In fact, it had changed daily. One day he went to my neighbor's house. The next, he wasn't even on my street. And the weirdest part is that people who lived in those houses claimed that they had never even seen him. One night I couldn't sleep, so I decided to go and get a midnight snack instead of sleeping. But when I got to the fridge, I noticed something from the corner of my eye. It was that same kid, the same boy I would always walk with, still walking on the street, hours into the night. I watched him. He went into a house across the street first, then left, went to the school, and came back. This time, though, he was clearly coming to my house. I started panicking. He was standing in the front yard now, slowly walking up the small hill within it. I debated talking to my mom and dad about it, but I thought I'd definitely get grounded if they found out I was up this late. Then I heard the screen door creak open. I started hyperventilating, running to hide behind an armchair as I listened to the boy clumsily and aggressively grabbing and pulling at the door handle. I shut my eyes as hard as I could, bracing myself, praying to God that me and my family would be okay. And then it stopped. I looked to the door. It was shut, though the screen door had fallen off the hinges into the garden. My mom said it was probably just some harsh winds, which is a valid assumption, but considering what had happened the night before, I really doubt it. I've been debating whether or not I should speak about this. I mean, who would believe me? You know, I've seen a lot of familiar stories here, so maybe someone can help me figure out what happened that night. What happened to that kid? I still don't know what happened to him. But I've been searching around the internet, interviewing people whose homes he's entered. I haven't found anything yet. Please, tell me if you know anything. If anyone has had something similar happen to them. I need to know. Killing was starting to take its toll on me, so I got my wife involved. Black bags, a hacksaw, and a shovel. The cashier looked at me funny, as he had rung up all of the items. "All you're missing now is the lime," he said, with a concerned look on his face. I nervously laughed as I handed him my credit card. I grabbed all the stuff and made my way back out to the car. Loaded it in the back before jumping into the driver's seat. I loaded it in the back before jumping into the driver's seat. "Are you sure you're up for this?" I asked. My wife put her hand on my leg before giving it a reassuring squeeze. "I can't keep letting you do this on your own, Mike. We drove for hours. We were making sure this time we were well out of the state. Usually I don't get my wife involved in this, but every time I do this, it takes a bit out of me with it. I think my wife just wants to share in the burden. We were well out of the state by the time the banging started. Soon she was going to be fully awake and screaming to be let out. If we got pulled over, how do we explain away the screaming girl in the trunk? We drove home for a bed up the mountain to a spot I had planned in advance. By the time we pulled up, she was fully awake, screaming to get out. I wanted to break her legs so she couldn't escape. It's what I usually do, but the wife thought it was cruel. I told my wife to be prepared, so I got ready. Opened the trunk. It whipped open, and out she jumped, knocking my wife over as she ran for her life. I grabbed the rope I had tied to her neck, snapping her back off of her feet and onto the ground. Kill her quickly, screamed my wife. I grabbed the shovel, and just as she was about to jump back on her feet, I cracked her in the back of the head, killing her instantly. We made sure to go deep in the woods and bury the body. My wife helped me drag the dead weight to the hill before we found a good spot to bury her. The sun was starting to rise by the time the hole was deep enough to bury her. Deep enough so not even the animals could get to her. We decided to stop over in a motel before making the long journey home. Killing always took it out of me, and my wife just wanted to sleep in a bed. Do you think it was enough this time? My wife asked. I cradled my wife in my arms as she laid, exhausted, on a dingy old mattress. I'm sure this will be the last time, I said, trying my best to reassure her. But I had been doing this long enough to know that it probably wouldn't be the last. We must have drifted off at some stage, because I suddenly found myself being jolted awake by the sound of breaking glass. What is it, dear? Glass cracked underneath my feet as I walked to check the window. I'm not sure. Hopefully, it's nothing. I don't want to alarm her, but I knew from the blood on the window we were not alone. I could hear the beating of my heart as I followed the trail of blood to the bathroom. Beads of sweat rolled down my back as I slowly turned the door handle. You're starting to scare me, Mike, said my wife. If she said my wife, as she sat, shaking on the bed. I slowly opened the door. I could hear slow, shallow breathing emanating from the darkness of the bathroom. My hand rattled with fear as I searched around for the light. She stood, staring at the reflection in the mirror. From the hole we had just buried her in. Why did you put me in that dark place? Don't you love me? She said, as her disjointed neck cracked. She turned to face me. I slowly backed up out of the bathroom. She opened her mouth and let out this unholy scream before lunging toward me. The shovel. I screamed at my wife and managed to subdue her on the ground as my wife ran into the room carrying the shovel. I think you need to do what we talked about, she said as she handed it to me. We brought the blade of the shovel down hard on her neck, cutting her head from her body. I know, cutting up the body seems a little extreme, but it was my wife's idea after all. It was just something I could never stomach. But we had exhausted all of the ideas so far. When our daughter first died in a car accident, it broke us. She was our only daughter. Oh, don't ask me how. But one night when we came down the stairs, there she was, sitting there. We thought it was a miracle, but eventually we had to face the truth. It wasn't our daughter. We came back. The first few times I killed her, it killed me a little bit. Every time. It's been 20 years now since the first time she died. Hopefully cutting her body into pieces will do the trick. My girlfriend talks in her sleep. Last night, she told me where the bodies are. If I'm being honest, I ignored the warning signs. I mean, wouldn't you? Sharon was perfect, or at least she seemed perfect at the time. She's beautiful in a classic way. It makes people stop and stare. Smart, too. She's got a dry sense of humor. Top class. She knows exactly how to use it, too. We've been dating for 8 months now. And yeah, maybe it was a little fast, but everything just clicked. From our first date, I knew I wanted her in my life. She felt like the total package. Someone I could actually see myself building a future with. Looking back, there were little things I should have paid more attention to. It started on our 4th date. We were sitting on our couch, drinking wine. When she brought it up, I should probably warn you about something, she said, swirling her glass. I raised an eyebrow, already half in love with her. Oh, what's that? I'm not the easiest person to sleep next to, she said. I laughed, thinking she was making a joke. Don't worry. My I've shared a bed with snorers before. I think I can handle it. She shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. It's not just snoring. I talk in my sleep sometimes. I move around, or, well, I've been known to slap a few people by accident. Slap people, huh? Sounds like an occupational hazard. I teased. She gave me this look, half serious, half amused. I'm just saying it's happened before. If you decide to stick around, you've been warned. At the time, I didn't think much of it. It sounded harmless. You've been kinda cute. But looking back, yeah, I should have taken her more seriously. The first time I stayed over at her place, I was anticipating a slap in my sleep, just so I could joke and poke fun at her about it the next day. But for the most part, first night was uneventful. She tossed and turned a little, muttering what sounded like random gibberish. Not the right one. Don't let it fall. I barely noticed. Over the next few weeks, quirks started to come out more. One night I woke up to her hand smacking me square in the chest. What the hell? I muttered, groggy and confused. Sharon was still asleep, her arm falling limp against the bed. The next morning I brought it up over breakfast. So, you hit me last night. She almost choked on her coffee, her eyes wide with mock horror. I did. Yep, full on smack. Guess you were dreaming about fighting someone. She grinned, shaking her head. Maybe I was dreaming about Aaron. She didn't talk about him much, but from what I gathered, her divorce was messy. The way she said his name, joking, up there, made me wonder if there was maybe more to the story. Still, I laughed it off. At the time, it didn't seem like a big deal. Warnings kept coming, however. I didn't recognize for what they were. A few weeks into staying over, Sharon brought it up again. As we got into bed, I wasn't kidding about the sleep stuff, you know. I know, I replied, pulling the covers over us. Honestly, it's not that bad. It's sort of adorable. Her smile flattered for just a second. Just don't freak out if I say something weird, okay? I gave her a hand, a reassuring squeeze. Sharon, it's no trouble. Really, I think you're perfect. And nothing you'd say in your sleep is going to change that. She smiled again, but this time it didn't quite reach her eyes. At the time, I thought it was nothing. Now I wish I'd taken that moment more seriously. The first few weeks of staying at Sharon's place were normal enough. Sure, she moved a lot in her sleep, tossing, turning, even mumbling. But I figured it was just part of her quirky charm. But then, her topics of conversation changed dramatically. At first, she'd say things like, "Put that down," or "Get the cat almost nonsense. I'd laugh about it the next morning. One night, about a month in, I woke up to something different. It's under the oak tree. Sharon murmured, her voice low and steady. I blinked, groggy, confused. Sharon, she didn't respond. Her body was still, her breathing slow and even. I sat up, leaned closer. What's under the oak tree? Nothing. She didn't say anything. Just rolled over and pulled the blanket tighter to herself. The next morning, over breakfast, I brought it up. You said something weird in your sleep last night. I told her. Sharon raised an eyebrow, sipping her coffee. Oh yeah? What did I say? It was strange. You said, under the oak tree. She tilted her head, like she was trying to figure out if I was joking. That's weird. Maybe it was about a tree or something. Maybe a tree house. Do you remember what you were dreaming about? She shook her head. No. My dreams are unbelievably random. You know how it is. I nodded, but her answer didn't sit right with me. There was something about the way she brushed it off. Too casual. Like she was trying to steer the conversation in another direction. A week later, I was circling the bed as if she was measuring the room. Sharon, I whispered. In my eyes. She didn't answer. I reached for the bedside lamp, but as soon as I touched the switch, she stopped, dead in her tracks. Don't, she said sharply. My hand froze. Don't what? She didn't respond for a moment. Just stood there. Then climbed back into bed. Her movements stiff and robotic. The next morning, I kept it to myself. Wanted to ask her about what she'd said. Something told me not to. Things got worse after that. One night she sat straight up in bed and started muttering again. 2 miles from the highway, she said, her voice calm and steady. It works better when the ground is wet. Didn't even try to wake her this time. Just laid there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And she finally rolled over and went quiet. I got up and went to the kitchen. My hands shook as I poured myself a glass of water. What the hell is going on? What is going on? The breaking point came a few nights later. I woke up Sharon sitting on the edge of the bed. I told you it wouldn't work, she whispered. I sat up slowly. Sharon. She didn't turn around. Her head tilted slightly, like she was listening to someone I couldn't see. He said he'd take care of it, but he didn't. Now it's my problem. Sharon, who are you talking to? I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up and walked out of the bedroom. I didn't follow her. I just sat there, frozen, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. When I woke up next morning, she was already in the kitchen, humming to herself as she made pancakes. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. I forced a smile, but my stomach churned. I couldn't stop thinking about the things she said in her sleep. The night I realized something was really wrong. Started like any other. Sharon fell asleep quickly, curled up on her side, while I stayed awake, scrolling through my phone. Everything seemed normal until I heard her voice. At first, I thought she was speaking to me. I held his nose shut, she said. I froze. Her voice was low, cold, almost monotone. Didn't take long. He kicked for a while, but then he stopped. I turned to her. Sharon was lying on her side, breathing slowly. "Sharon," I whispered. She didn't respond. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Drag him down to the embankment." The soil was soft, perfect for digging. "What the heck?" I muttered under my breath. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I confronted her. "You were talking in your sleep again." Sharon glanced up from her coffee, looking amused. "Oh, no, really? What did I say this time? I hope it wasn't anything embarrassing." I hesitated. You said something about suffocating someone and digging a grave." She frowned. "That's weird. Maybe a nightmare about one of those crime shows I watch. You know how much I like to binge." She laughed, but it didn't feel genuine. "You don't remember what you were dreaming about?" I pressed. Sharon shook her head. "No, sorry, honestly, Chris, I never remember any of my dreams." I nodded, but I suspected she wasn't telling me everything. A few nights later, "Max," she said. Her tone was calm and detached. I sat up in my bed, my skin crawling. "He's behind the old barn," she continued. "The one with the blue door." Mine, the name was familiar. A young man named Max had gone missing years ago while on a camping trip. His case was still unsolved. The next morning, I didn't bring it up. I didn't know how to, but I couldn't get the name or her words out of my head. I googled Max's name on my phone. His disappearance had happened in the next county over. There was no mention in the reports of a barn or a blue door. But the other details Sharon had mentioned matched the description of the area where he had last been seen. A few days later, I worked up the nerve to suggest something to Sharon. She was grinning when I first approached. Have you ever thought about doing a sleep study? I asked carefully. Her smile faded. Why would I do that, Chris? I don't know, just you've been saying some really strange things in your sleep. Maybe it's stress or something. I'm fine, she said, shaking her head. You're overthinking it. What about recording it? I said, just so you can hear it for yourself. Her expression darkened instantly. No, absolutely not. That's a huge invasion of privacy. I wasn't trying to. If you ever record me without my permission, Chris, we're done. I mean it. Our eyes met. I nodded and we went on with our day. Inside, however, my world was unraveling. That night, after she fell asleep, I couldn't help myself. I propped my phone under the pillow on her side of the bed and hit record. The next morning, while Sharon was in the shower, I played back the audio. At first, it was just static, and then around 2 a.m., her voice came through, clear as day. Nina screamed too much. Sharon muttered, had to move fast, no mistakes. I froze. Nina, I knew her too. Teenager by the name had disappeared 5 years ago, and her case was still open. No, it couldn't be. I thought, it's impossible. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to know if what she was saying was true. That afternoon, I drove down to one of the locations Sharon had described. Barn, blue door. It wasn't far, about 20 minutes out of town. I found it easy. The building was old and weathered. The door faded to a dull gray. Behind the barn was a small grove of trees. The soil beneath them looked disturbed, like someone had dug there recently. I told myself to leave, but I couldn't. I grabbed a nearby stick and started digging at the dirt. I didn't have to dig long. The smell of pungent, unmistakable hit me at first. Then I saw it. Torn, dirt-streaked patch of fabric clinging to what I could only describe as remains. I stumbled back. My head swam as I struggled to process. Sharon hadn't been dreaming. I couldn't stop myself. Every night after Sharon fell asleep, I set up my phone to record. And every morning, while she showered and made coffee, I reviewed what she'd said. It was always the same. She kept crying, so I had to do it fast. It wasn't clean, she said. She's in the quarry now, and the water keeps her hidden. Names changed, but the patterns didn't. piece of a horrifying puzzle. I couldn't deny it anymore. These weren't dreams. They were confessions. Sharon started to notice something was off. "You've been quiet lately," she said one morning, sliding a plate of scrambled eggs across the table. "Just tired," I muttered, avoiding her eyes. "You're always tired these days," she said, tilting her head. "Is something bothering you?" "No, nothing." She studied me for a moment, her gaze sharp, unblinking, then smiled. "Okay." After that, I felt she watched me more closely, just waiting for me to slip up. One night, she caught me. I thought she was asleep. I was sitting on the couch, headphones plugged into my phone, listening to the last recording. I told him I'd take care of it, Sharon whispered in the recording. But he didn't listen. I had to clean up his mess. The sound of her voice made my skin crawl. "What are you doing, Chris?" I jumped, yanking the headphones out of my ears. Sharon was standing in the hallway, arms crossed. "Nothing," I said quickly, locking my phone and shoving it into my pocket. Her eyes narrowed. "Were you listening to something?" "No," I stammered. "I was just scrolling through Instagram." She didn't move. Her expression didn't change. She just stood there, staring at me. "Let me see your phone," she said finally. "What?" I said, laughing nervously. I said, "Give me your phone, Chris." "Why?" "Because I think you're lying to me." I stood up, trying to keep my voice calm. "Sharon, you're being ridiculous." "Am I?" she said, taking a step closer. "You've been acting strange for weeks, avoiding me, locking your phone. What are you hiding?" "Nothing," I said. "Why would you think I..." "Then let me see your phone," she said, cutting me off. "No." The word came out sharper than I'd intended. Sharon's voice was cold and flat. "You recorded me, didn't you?" A wave of dread washed over me. "I don't know what you're talking about." She took another step forward. "While I was sleeping, you recorded me. Admit it." "Sharon and I..." "Give me the phone, Chris." "No." She lunged at me, her fingers crawling for my pocket. I stumbled back, trying to push her away, but she was relentless. "Give it to me," she screamed, her voice echoing through the apartment. I twisted out of her grip and ran for the door. Didn't stop running until I got to my car. My hands shook so badly, it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. As I pulled out of the lot, Sharon standing in the window, watching me. I didn't go back for my things, not even my phone. The next day, I logged into my cloud account from a public library. The records were gone. Sharon must have found a way to delete them. I sat there, staring at the empty folder. All the evidence gone. I didn't go to the police. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? My girlfriend confessed to 12 murders in her sleep. That I found a body exactly where she said it would be. They'd laugh me out of the station or worse. They'd think I was involved. And without the recordings, I had nothing but my word. Instead, I did the only thing that I could think of. I ran, drove straight to the next town over, checking into a motel. I spent the rest of the night staring at the cracked ceiling, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do. The next morning, I got a new phone. It was nothing fancy, basic model. Could make calls and access my cloud account. Not that it mattered. The recordings were gone. Every file erased. She found a way to delete them. For weeks I stayed in that motel, keeping my head down, jumping at every sound outside my door. I just knew she was out there, watching, waiting for the right moment. I avoided social media, afraid she would use it to track me down. The only thing I kept up with was the news. Every morning, I scrolled through the local crime reports, praying I wouldn't see her name, or worse, hear about another body. At first, there was nothing. No missing persons, no disappearance, no murder. For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe I had scared her enough to stop. Then, the killing started again. It was small things at first. A man found strangled in his home, a woman's body pulled from a lake, both in neighboring counties. The circumstances eerily similar to the stories. I told myself it was a coincidence. It had to be. But then it got closer. A teenage girl missing from her hometown. Her bike found abandoned on the side of the road, just a mile from where I grew up. A week later, her body discovered in a shallow grave beneath a grove of trees. I couldn't breathe. I saw the report. The site matched Sharon's description exactly. Beneath the roots. That's the trick. No one checks beneath the roots. It was her. It had to be. The breaking point came when the news reported another victim. My cousin Riley. Riley and I weren't close, not anymore. But we'd grown up together. She was the kind of person who lit up every room when she walked in. Always smiling. Always laughing. When I saw her name on the news feed, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. The reporter said she'd been found near the same grove where the teenager's body had been discovered. They didn't give any details, but I already knew. I knew it was Sharon. For days I couldn't eat, sleep. All I could think about was Riley. How I could have stopped this if I'd done something sooner. If I'd gone to the police or told someone, anyone. But I hadn't. I ran away like a coward. And now Riley was gone. Guilt was suffocating. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but running away from that girl has to be the worst. I thought leaving would save me. I thought it would keep her from finding out how much I knew. The truth is, it didn't save Riley. It didn't save anyone. I can't keep it to myself anymore. I don't care if they don't believe me, or if people think I'm crazy. Even if it puts a target on my back, I have to tell someone. I have to do something. 4 days I've sat here, trying to find the right words that might make someone listen. Words that might stop her. But the truth is, I don't think it matters anymore. Riley's dead. It's my fault. I can't stop seeing her face on the news. I can't stop hearing her mom's voice on the phone, shaking as she told me what happened. I could have done something. Could have stopped her. But I didn't. I ran, my hands shaking, my head pounding, my chest feels tight, but I have to get it out. I just need someone to know. Her name is Sharon. She is smart, beautiful, perfect on the outside. She confessed to everything. Max, Nina, all of them. She described how she did it, where she buried them. Thought it was dreams at first. I wanted to believe it was just dreams, but I found one. I dug where she said to dig. I tried running. I thought if I stayed quiet, she'd let it go. The unalivings never stopped. I suppose I want someone to know the truth before she finds me. Because she will. It's just a matter of time. There's a noise. I freeze. My fingers hovering over the keyboard. I hear the sound of glass, of footsteps, slow, steady, coming from the kitchen. Nausea overwhelms me. I grab my gun, my hands trembling. I nearly drop it. Oh God, she's here. I don't know if I'll get out of this. If I disappear. If anyone finds this, please